Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty advisor, somewhere in this godforsaken 120-degree heat in Arizona. We decided to walk outside in the sun and do a video. And, you know, there's a lot of crazy news right now after a recent meeting from the Federal Reserve where we heard pretty interesting news regarding interest rates, which, obviously for many years we were talking here at WAM about how they will utilize interest rates to, in a more prosperous period, make it look as though everything is just rosy. They will raise interest rates until they literally can't anymore because they were going to go into negative rates, which we're now technically speaking seeing. Well, at the recent meeting, we found out that not only are they going to attempt to raise interest rates, but they plan to do it twice in the year 2023. And as this article out of CNBC says, the Fed moves up its timeline for rate hikes as inflation rises. And the key points are that the Federal Reserve considerably raised its expectations for inflation this year and brought forward the time frame on when it will next raise interest rates. However, the central bank gave no indication as to when it will begin cutting back on its aggressive bond buying program, though Fed Chairman Jerome Powell acknowledged that officials discussed the issue at the meeting. As expected, the policymaking Federal Open Market Committee unanimously left its benchmark short-term borrowing rate anchored near zero. We're talking here about the biggest cog of the monopoly of what they call wealth inequality and all that nonsense. At the end of the day, what we're looking at is this behemoth, the central bank that prints currency out of thin air, destroys the purchasing power of the currencies that people use in their everyday life. And then because of all the problems it creates, a Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat kicks in. And next we see them come in with new government programs and policies that make people more dependent and just basically build on the already existing problem. Tim, let's talk about this a little bit today. I wanted to hear your thoughts on this rate decision and what do you think that's going to actually mean as far as, they're even talking about in 2022 possibly. Bullard was saying of the Fed. Bullard was saying that he was looking at possibly a raise of the interest rates in 2023. Let's walk and talk a little bit about this, and I want to hear your thoughts as a certified financial planner on this.
Well, the only thing that they said that actually I think made sense is to not pay attention to what they say. So there's something called the dot plots, which is this where the Federal Reserve governors will actually make predictions and where they think rates will be, both in like the end of the year, 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years down the road. They've historically been atrociously wrong all throughout, basically ever since the 2008 crash happened. They've been wrong the entire time. So if you go back to like 2010, I think they were saying by 2014 we'd have a 4% Fed funds rate. Obviously that didn't happen, and it kept getting ratcheted down. And I remember presenting this actually at Anarchapulco in 2020, where I think at the time they were pretending that they could have the rates getting back up to about 2.5, 3, actually it was right around 2.5 at the time. And I go, nope, watch a year or two from now, these will probably be all the way back down to zero. And it only took about 3 weeks for that to end up happening. But the point of the matter is they're only telling, like, if you say, oh, we're going to raise rates twice in 2 years, 2 years is sort of like the equivalent of like 15 days to flatten the curve.
Right.
Because now if they were to say they're never going to raise rates again, the only way they're going to raise them is so that way they're going to cut them again. So yeah, can they squeak out 1 or 2? Yeah, and then they'll probably have to then end up having to cut it right back down to zero. But if they were to come out and say, hey, we're never going to raise rates again because we're trapped and we basically have gamified things since 2008 to the point where the Fed now has to buy, I think it was about $140 billion of bonds a month.
Right.
They've got about 40 from the mortgage-backed bonds, and I believe it's maybe about 120. So whether it's 120 or 140, somewhat immaterial. The point of the matter is that this is a complete rigged market, and they need to keep this whole rigged casino going, and they do that by buying up all the bonds. And so you've got the richest people in the world get to finance all their activities for literally zero, buy up all the assets, and the poor people then need to rent from the richer people. And so this is a huge bailout for the richest people in the world, while at the same time you have all these clowns people like Jim Cramer coming out there and saying, literally in a video that I saw today, saying the Fed, needs to keep rates low to basically help out black people and help out minorities. And, I'd love to see, their definition of help. If you go back to 1964, when minimum wage was $1.25, which could be represented by 5 quarters, those 5 quarters had 90% silver in them, and then today would be worth, probably about $35.
Yeah.
And, maybe even more, depending on if you're paying spot. But regardless, the minimum wage, the problem is it's the money. It's the money that's making everybody poor, and the people behind all this is the Federal Reserve, and the people who are most disadvantaged are going to be the people at the bottom rung of society, which, in a lot of cases are different types of minorities. So now the same assholes who are in charge of effing everything up are the same ones that are now being heralded as the heroes to come in and save the day, when it's like the arsonists somehow getting credit for putting out a fire that they created to begin with. And I think there is a big forest fire going off not even too far away from us right now that we can smell. But so that's one of the, and they've got people like Janet Yellen, who's now at the Treasury, former Fed chair, who I remember was giving statements, I believe to the Boston Fed, where she was saying things along the lines of, I've worked my entire life to study income inequality, and
she spent her entire life studying it. And was she studying how to cause it? Because that would be the only thing that makes sense. Otherwise, she wasted a lot of time never getting to the point.
And let's not forget who put Jerome Powell in there to begin with. He was appointed by Barack Obama, and then you had Donald Trump then pick him, and then more than likely Joe Biden is also going to pick him. So the day I got off the Trump train, which for some of you might even be surprised I was on there to begin with, but I hated Hillary Clinton, and literally the day he picked Jerome Powell was the day that I knew that Donald Trump was too fucking stupid for his own good, because you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do about the Fed chair once you already pick somebody. And so you're going to have, the same boss, new boss, same as the old boss. So I really am going to trust. Everyone's like, you don't have the 5D chest that Donald Trump has. And yet here he is picking out somebody that Barack Obama picked out, who, his policies are pretty much no different than Janet Yellen's. And Jerome Powell's a globalist, and he raised rates a few times, during the greatest economy in the history of the world. And guess what? If you can't raise rates, more than, a few times during the greatest economy in the history of the world, how do they think they're going to do things? So they only said they're going to raise rates in 2023 because, it's a far enough time span out, given, a year and a half, 2 years away, that they can, pretend that everything is okay until there's another excuse for them to lower it when some other event, Delta variant, something comes out in the future.
Well, okay, so one of the main ways you can control people is with the money and utilizing central banking and fiat currency. It's one of the greatest ways to enslave humanity. What we've seen in the last year, especially, though it's been a long time, is the attempt to completely enslave humanity. What do you think their plan is when you see them talking about raising interest rates in 2023, possibly 2022? What do you think they are plotting? What do you think they are planning?
Well, I think it's going to be some sort of Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution, where the ultimate end game is to have the Federal Reserve come in and own everything, and they're doing a pretty good job of that.
We'll own nothing.
Doing a pretty good job of that right now. And so they need to have an excuse. And just like in March of 2020, they came in and they created these different facilities, and the facilities came in to buy up the corporate bonds. A lot of times they're buying the corporate bonds with BlackRock being the one that was the middleman in between, making commissions off of it, while BlackRock was then getting to sell their own junk bond funds. They call them high yield funds, which are the euphemism for junk. They get to sell their junk bullshit to the Federal Reserve for 100 cents on the dollar and create a commission. And these are the richest. They manage $9 trillion, and this is a bailout of literally the richest people in the world, while at the same point now they're saying, the Federal Reserve, cares about black people and Hispanics and minorities.
Totally.
Bullshit. They don't care about anything. They want to create everyone. They want to be slaves.
They want debt dependence. If you have an entire population in debt dependence and independence to the central banking system, to the currency manipulators, to the government, then you have the perfect society to be enslaved. I mean, it's a perfect situation for the elites. If people can't manage their money, if you understand money, then you can control your money. If you can control your money, you can control yourself. If you can't control your money, then someone else is controlling your money, and then you have no independence in that situation. You're basically screwed.
I think, what the end game is? I think the end game is there's going to be some sort of, because right now you're seeing the bond rates, I believe the 20-year bond rate is actually higher than the 30-year bond rate. And so eventually what they're going to have happen is the Fed's going to lose control of the interest rates. And so instead of, either way, this leads to hyperinflation as you skip to the end game over here.
Yeah.
But what they can, so what, if inflation starts getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%, what's the Fed going to be able to do? Raise the rates to 2, which means that you're still, if you're investing in a government bond, you're still losing 7% if the real inflation rate is 9, or what if it's 10%? I mean, if the inflation is 10%, it means every 7.2 years, you're losing half your purchasing power. So imagine if you're the average, Social Security retiree that's living off $24,000 a year,
right.
And then 7 years from now, that $24,000 buys you $12,000. Then 7 more years, it buys you $6,000. And that's not even hyperinflation. That's only 10%. That's not even going anything crazy, because there's certain places where it's over 10% a day or 10% an hour, depending on what parts of the world that you live in right now, like Venezuela and Argentina.
And how deep do you think in the long term will we see interest rates actually fall to? I remember in the end of 2019, Janet Yellen said we won't see interest rates change in the next several years. Jerome Powell said the same thing. They're still BSing on inflation, and they're saying it's around a 3.5% rate right now, according to the article I was just looking at out of CNBC, which obviously goes without saying, false.
It's called CMBS. But.
Yeah, but it's just they were talking about a 3.6% or so inflation rate, which is obviously nonsense.
I believe some of the month-over-month numbers went up like 0.5, 0.6, 0.7%. So I mean, even at 0.5, that's 6% per year, which is, so I would already argue and say this actually been going on for a while, that we already have negative interest rates. So if you can go on a 10-year and get, I don't know what, wait a second, 1.4, and inflation is really, 6, you're losing almost 5% a year. You're losing money already. So will they have it go completely negative? I don't think they will, from like the, having like a negative 1% rate, because I think even the average dumbed down American still is too smart to really fall for that, but they're not smart enough to fall for, having an inflation adjusted real negative interest rate. And so I think that eventually the Fed's going to lose control of the rates. There's no way they can raise rates. And then if you have a 30-year bond, rates go up 1%, you got $1 million. Now you got about $700,000. Rates go up 2%. Now you've got, I'm just obviously doing this off the top of my head here, now you've got about $400,000. And in 30 years from now, when you're dead, your heirs will get your money back, and it'll buy them, next to nothing. But what they're probably going to do is say, oh, if you want to trade that in for some sort of digital dollar, we'll go buy that 20-year treasury from you. And if you want to get 100 cents on the dollar, you can trade it in for your government Goldman Sachs.gov coin, stable coin, and the Fed coin. I mean, you even go to the Economist magazine from last month, and the title of the Economist magazine is GovCoin, which was 33 years, 33 weeks, 33 days from their other cover back in 1987, which was a phoenix rising out of the ashes with what looked like a Bitcoin symbol in 1987. So, all this stuff is planned, all this stuff, and then the banks, we're right by a river bank right now. And so, the judges rule from a bench. The Latin word from bench is basically, translates to bank, and the banks are used to control the flow of water. And so, it's just, I wasn't really planning on bringing that little subject up today. But, for anyone that thinks that this is some red hot economy, that this is, we're at takeoff velocity, it's all being manufactured by the central banks printing money, which hurts minorities and hurts poor people more than anybody. It actually benefits people like me who work in the financial markets, because as they print all this money, then it lifts the value of the financial assets. But they're trapped, and they've been trapped for a very long time, because and once inflation starts really taking off, what are they going to do? Like in 1980, are they going to be able to raise rates to 18%? No, it's going to crash. It's going to crash everything, and no one's willing to take any short-term pain. And because they're not willing to take some short-term pain, they're going to make, a huge amount of devastating losses for everybody. But maybe half the country will be dead because they took the vaccine anyways. So maybe half the country won't have to worry about this. So
well, with that said,
positive note.
As we continue to walk here, it's really important that people take control of their own money and their own assets, and understand the money that's in their pocket, instead of allowing someone to take advantage of it and push you further into dependence. Because at the end of the day, there is a grand chessboard scheme happening here, and it's not for the good. This scheme involves the Great Reset going into 2025.
The grand chessboard.
Yeah. Going into 2025, the Great Reset, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. I think not, Mr. Schwab. And on top of that, leading from there, we'll see a huge move towards Agenda 2030 by the year 2030, of course, which perfectly lays 5 years after the great economic upset, which will clearly bankrupt millions, if not hundreds of millions, if not billions of people worldwide, because it's a globalist scheme. At the same time, it will destroy private property. It will cause insane amounts of poverty, starvation, and we will end up in a situation where people are going to be desperate. There's going to be food wars, and then Bill Gates will own more farmland than any other person in the United States, and he'll be the main monopoly on that as well, or Melinda Gates or Manlinda Gates or whatever they want to move it into. And then they will go into Agenda 2030 where people are dying, starving, and at the same time, Bill Gates wants to dim the sun, which will cause more crop die-offs, and it's none of it's good, my friends.
Also,
we need to stand up now.
Owners of Monsanto, which is now Bayer, but one of the largest owners of Monsanto before they were purchased by Bayer was Bill Gates. So I mean, his money wasn't necessarily tied up in Microsoft; it was more in genetic engineering of all of our food.
And he's also heavily involved in all the major rail lines, moving the food around the country as well by rail and by car, and boat as well. So
and it's a big smart city proponent. So they want to build one actually not too far away from me in Arizona, where I think it was in the news was it yesterday or 2 days ago, where Texas Power Grid were able to go into people's smart meters or smart thermometers and start raising up the temperature so that they're waking up and their house was like 85 degrees inside of there. And so that's what the future looks like. You're not gonna be able to control, and it's all for going green while they jet set around in their 10 private jets and just talk about how they love poor people and love black people so much,
and which is all virtue signaling while they're trying to kill black people and poor people. And again, it circles back to why I think it's so important that people have privacy coins. In my opinion, not investment advice, Pirate Chain, Monero, WowNero, possibly Epic Cash. I mean, we're talking the future of the cashless society that's completely centrally planned, going through the central banking system. There needs to be a way out for you to not have everything monitored, tracked, surveilled at all times, and for you to be able to spend money on the free market without a vaccine passport or permission from your dear leader. So again, it's really important to look into privacy coins. And of course, Tim is a certified financial planner. You can join him or look for a consultation or book him at www.thelibertyadvisor.com, linked below the video. If you want to become a client of Tim's. Anyway, there's lots more to talk about. We'll get into it further at another time. We're going to end it for now because we're standing in 120 degree temperatures. It's in the shade, but it's like having a hot air blower blowing on you. So anyway, we're going to cut it off there. But it's really important for you guys to keep your money safe, protect yourself, protect your privacy, and protect your livelihood. Food, water, shelter, self-defense. Live freely, live by example. Always be the free person that you want to be. Don't just talk about it. We'll be back at you with much more stuff from all over the country and possibly Mexico coming up real soon. So stay tuned and check the links below. Hit the like button, share on social media. Of course, join our Telegram group, World Alternative Media. Join my newsletter at www.iamband.com. It takes 2 seconds. It's free. Just put your email in and we won't spam you. And of course, there's many other ways you can help support us. We're on BitChute. We're on Odysee. We're on Flote.app, flote.app. We're on Rumble. Go subscribe on Rumble. Give it some love over there. And of course, we're on the bad guys, Twitter at World Alt Media, as well as Instagram, World Alternative Media. Tim, where can people subscribe to you?
I was about to make a joke saying you're basically everywhere except for OnlyFans, but you can
now.
At flote.app/Liberty Advisor is the only place where sometimes I post there, but I've been on a social media detox. And like Josh said, if you guys want to go to thelibertyadvisor.com, most of the booking out is until like middle of August. So we're going to be coming out with some new cryptocurrency products as well. But anyways, if you got rich off crypto and looking ways for next time it shoots up to where you need to be, I've got different strategies for crypto multimillionaires to put money in different trusts and legally avoid capital gains. And as they start raising up capital gains and start lowering the inheritance and death taxes. It's going to be, a very valuable thing, especially for everyone that lives in America and got rich off crypto. So if you guys want to go there, check me out and prepare for the next time we get it bumped back up to where it was before.
Absolutely. I do believe by end of year, 100K Bitcoin easily, in my opinion. It's short-term downtrend right now, a correction that's much needed. Unfortunately, it was brought about by a complete moron, Elon Musk. But nonetheless, it's important that we have
His
these.
grandfather was like the top technocrat of Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's important to understand as well that the cashless system can replace a cashless system, depending if you're talking about decentralized or centrally planned. There's a difference, my friends, and there's a difference in the technology and encryption and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, he's also the Liberty Advisor on BitChute and Odysee, and you can find ways to support us. Go get funding.com, Patreon, subscribe to our PayPal. We got Bitcoin, we got a Cointree link with a bunch of cryptocurrencies in it. We got much more linked below. Make sure to check that out. Join us, support us. Hopefully we'll see you on Telegram. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.
Bye.